Okay, I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by this. Becoming successful is like learning to walk. How many in this room have not learned to walk yet? How many have? Okay, we're going to do a little exercise. You've been sitting for a while. We need a little exercise. I want you to do something for me. I want you to listen to my words very, very carefully. You're only going to get one shot at this. I want you to try and stand up. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to share this with you. Those of you who are standing didn't try. Those of you who are sitting didn't try. You made a choice. You stood up or you stayed sitting down. You didn't try. You did it. One way or the other, you did it. Thank you. Okay? It's all about choice. You either do it or you don't do it. Trying is one of the lousiest words in the human vocabulary. It's almost in the same category that I believe can't word is. Okay? Those two words need to be removed from a leader's vocabulary. Okay? Terry, you've raised 3 children. How many hours from the time your child started to crawl was it before they were walking on their own? How many hours? Approximately. 20 hours. Okay. Vaughn, you got a new grandbaby. Not quite ready to walk yet, but I'm crawling. Okay. From the time the baby is crawling successfully till that baby pulls up, stands up, would be and walk on their own would be approximately how many hours? You had 3 children. A couple of months. Okay, Travis, you got 5 boys, and they say boys are slower learners than girls, but you and I don't agree with that philosophy. But just in your estimation, how many hours do you think from the time the child is successfully crawling to where they start pulling up on furniture, standing and walking on their own would be approximately how many hours? 50 or so hours. Do you want to know what the real time is? You watch your parents walk, you watch your siblings walk, you see everyone walking. It looks easy until you try to stand. Then you fall, but you try and try again, even if you get bruised. However, you do not give up until you're taking your first steps. It takes the average baby 1,000 hours from crawling to the point of pulling up, standing up, and walking without help. Isn't that amazing? So you see how much we missed out on? It's just a natural thing as a parent. We don't even calculate the hours that's gone into tutoring this baby. And yes, some may walk a little slower or a little quicker, some will walk a little slower. But this is the consensus of the average time that it takes for a baby to learn to walk. Isn't that amazing? And you know, I look at this and I think, how many of us have even spent 20 hours studying our Young Living business plan? And then we wonder why we're not as successful as perhaps we could have been. Mary and I hugged a little lady yesterday that's been in Young Living 11 years. 11 years! And she said, I'm going to build a business. I'm going to build a business. Time is right. Whatever. But folks, here's the thing that I want you to give thought to. What would happen to your Young Living business if you spent just 100 hours learning how your comp plan works and the business model of Young Living? Number 1, so you can teach it effectively and not leave money on the table. Do you know Mary and I have sat at her computer, because she's called me over when I'm writing and that, because she watches the commission run almost every single month. She watches to see how each of you are doing. And she'll call me over the computer and she says, honey, can you believe this? Here's a distributor that missed out on $84 from ranking up that would have made her another $5,000 on her check. Another distributor she showed me that would have made place an order for another $120. Another $120 in her organization missed ranking up that would have generated her another $11,000 that month. Honey, how often do we see this? Several times a month? Many? Many? How many times a month do we see this? Multiple times? It's ongoing. This is my point, folks. Some of you are missing out on big money and you're leaving on the table because you're not studying your business. You're not understanding how it works. You're not understanding how to teach your organization. How many people in your organization may be leaving money on the table as well? Mary has shown me many organizations where it's just like a waterfall cascading all the way down because no one in the organization really understood the marketing plan, the business plan, your business, and left hundreds and thousands of dollars on the table. That is amazing to me because we're not taking our business seriously. To obtain a private pilot license, you need 100 to 150 hours. And then you need another 25 hours of ground school. That's just if you pass. And then if you want to go and become a commercial pilot, you're looking at another up to 900 hours, right, Mark? At least. To get a commercial license, to get a job. How many doctors? Dr. Winkler, Dr. Reed, how many years spent to get your license as a physician? How many years? What were they doing? They were studying. How many years to get an MBA? How many hours go into that? And yet we have such a powerful business. We have the most perfect business model in the industry. We are engaged in the greatest free enterprise system in the world, folks. Who in their right mind does not want to be part of that? Who does not want to spend time learning that model so you can be successful, more successful, but you can teach all the people in your organization to be more successful? How much more good could we do as a company through the foundation if we were 3, 4 times the size we are, the volume we are, the world ripple that we can create? We haven't even reached the threshold yet. Researchers have agreed on what they believe is the magic number of hours for gaining true expertise. What do you think of that? 10,000 hours of true expertise. So when you look at where you started in Young Living, how many hours you committed to your program, to learning the Young Living business model, to where you are today, how close do you fit in the 1,000 to 10,000 hour range? And if you answer that question truthfully inside, then you can look down into your organization and you can perhaps see why some of your people are floundering, or they're struggling, or they're not achieving the levels. Who's responsible for that? We as the leaders are responsible for that. It's up to us to wake up our people and put the vision in front of those who are blind. Because there are people that do not have vision. And what did God say? Those without vision shall perish. And folks, it is no underestimate that when you have been in a space of being depressed, and I don't know, but I kind of gathered from what Kyle shared a little bit, he probably went through some days of deep depression and days of self-evaluation. There is nothing to live for. I know for 2 years when I sat in the wheelchair paralyzed, I had nothing to live for. There was nothing that excited me. There was nothing that motivated me. My wife took my children and left me the year before. I lost my ranch. I lost my cattle. I lost my horses. I lost my logging business. I lost everything. There was nothing to live for, in my opinion. And nobody could help me. Nobody could talk to me. Nobody could make a difference. I had to change my paradigm by changing my thoughts. And then I had to grab and start from the bottom up. You know, one thing about starting from the bottom up, it's really easy because it's only one way. When you have sunk to the lowest low, there's only one way out. Okay? And sometimes, unfortunately, we're there. But what's beautiful is when there's people around us that can put a vision in front of us. As I said before, if you don't have the passion, then borrow the passion. If you don't have the vision, borrow the passion. We as leaders now, it's our responsibility to lend that vision, to lend that passion, and help motivate our people in our organizations until they have that, until that little seed germinates beneath the soil. And you know what's beautiful when you understand how a seed germinates? How many hours go into the cracking of the seal on that seed, the cracking of the shell, how much moisture is absorbed, how many minerals, nutrients, enzymes interact with cracking that shell. The enzymatic activity can sometimes take years to crack that shell before it will start to germinate. In other cases, if that seed is in the right environment, with the right nurturing, that shell will crack within hours and start the germination process. Folks, it's up to us as leaders to help our people that are stuck, because there's many people that are in places where I was, and we need help cracking that shell and seeing the greatness that's above the dirt that's over top of us. And I did. And I've at different times, even recently, said I feel like I'm on an avalanche of snow and I've got a teaspoon digging my way out because of all the demands and responsibilities and work that comes with what we're doing. And you leaders, there's many of you. In fact, I want to see a show of hands. How many of you leaders feel sometimes you're under an avalanche with a teaspoon? Absolutely. It is not an unusual feeling. It's part of us as a human being to have that. But then we have to look at that teaspoon and not look at the size of it, but the potential of it. And realize the only difference that it makes from moving a mountain of snow in front of us with a teaspoon versus a tablespoon is the speed we move it with. We might suffocate before we get out from under. All right? It's the passion that moves that teaspoon faster. It is the desire. And maybe that desire is from fear. And so be it if it is. God gave you every human emotion for a reason. And He gave you that emotion to take charge of it and use it to empower yourself to great accomplishment. I love this one from Malcolm Gladwell. No one who can rise before dawn 360 days a year fails to make his family rich. How powerful. I have a teenage son. And I think all of you who are parents have been through that teenage son role. And for some reason, teenagers think that life gets better after dark. And I've never understood that, and because I was raised different. You know, I had to be up at 4:30, head to the milking barn to milk cows when I was a boy, and feed the horses, and feed the stock, and feed the sheep, and do the chores that we had to do before coming in for breakfast, and having breakfast, then walking 3 miles to the bus. Or when the horses were in, we'd catch up a horse, and we could ride the horse to the bus and leave him in the neighbor's pasture. Many times it was get up early enough to do the chores and the milking, the feeding, and walk 3 miles to the bus. So I was never one to sleep in. I personally believe that sleep is a detriment to human life. And let me tell you why. If you look at the statistics of how many people die in bed, spend there, you reduce your rent. All right? So I'm trying to teach my son, I'd like him to reduce his risk a few hours a day by getting up at 6 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock. But it's so critical because you know what we do? It's like one of our speakers mentioned on stage, I think it was John, that said the average person watches 35 hours of television a week. I was stunned when I heard that number. How is this possible? That is a person that has no life. How many hours have gone into your business development? How many of you have taken time to set aside an hour a day of studying your business model and perfecting it before going to work, or before launching another program, or before getting on the internet, or doing another meeting? Folks, a good leader spends time reflecting on how they can empower themselves and be better so they can teach better and be a better example. Practice isn't the thing you do once you're good, it's the thing you do that makes you good. The key to productive decision making is not knowledge. I've heard this so much. It's not knowledge. A child has a lot of knowledge about walking because they've seen it from the parents, the siblings, the grandparents, all the relatives. They have a lot of knowledge about walking. But when they stand up, they don't succeed the first time. It is information. And most times we fail to gather it adequately. And this is one of the areas that I have watched throughout my life, is we get excited and we fail to gather the information adequately for making a productive decision that's going to take us to a higher level. Learn, 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 and never stop learning. Why are people afraid to move forward or take a risk? Is the risk worthwhile? What if it doesn't work out? Will I lose my friends? Will I lose my marriage? Will I lose everything financially? No, it's not worth the risk. You took a risk coming today because of the traffic, the weather, a waste of time, etc. There's no guarantee that you will return home today. True or false?
True.
You take a risk to play. There's a risk of going to work. Everything we do, there's a risk involved. What do? You calculate the risk and then move forward. Sometimes, I was asked to make this nitro commercial. I took a risk. Well, sometimes there's a little bit of ego in the gas tank and nitro. That was not a good calculated risk.
I'm not sure about the connection. It seems to be working.
173 feet, 63-foot vertical drop, resulting in 3 broken, fractured vertebrae and a ruptured disc. And the disc between 11 and 12 was a ruptured. It went down inside of 12 and shoved the bone marrow out through the shell. The biggest challenge I had was trying to breathe when I landed. But then I also knew there was something else, and this is a little principle I wish to share with you and teach you here. Evaluate your circumstances. As I undone my harness to climb out, I knew I had a choice. I could either get out and let everybody know that the pain was off the Richter scale, or I could get out and act like nothing was wrong. And as I look over my shoulder, I see all the people up on the hill who was watching the filming. And I know there's no way I can let them know I'm hurting. And I climbed out. My car is a mess. There's pieces laying everywhere. And so I walked around, looking at my car. Because it hurt to stand up. And I stretched as much as I could to decompress John came running over the hill. Gary, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Do you want me to call Mary? And boy, I stood straight up. John. If the coroner has signed the death certificate, then you can call Mary. But until then, don't, because if you do, I will be dead. There's risk in learning, and that's not Mark. There's a risk to go on a vacation. I took my horses, we packed back into the wilderness 2 years ago, some of you know about it, and 3 days after we're there, big forest fire that came our way. But whatever you do in life, there are risks. There's a risk of doing research. There's a risk of living. Why not take a risk and live with passion and abundance? There was a risk coming to convention. True or false? You want to know what the risk is? You might become addicted to young living. Dr. Anthony Campolo interviewed 50 people over age 95 and asked, if you could live life over again, what would you do differently? I would reflect more often. I would take more risk. I would do more things that would live on after I'm dead. These are my 8 steps to successful building. Communicate. 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 It's kind of like real estate. You know, it's location, location, location. When you're building a business, it's communication. Care for people. When people feel that you care inside, it creates a magnetism because it's heart-to-heart connection. Practice correct principles. Never tell a lie because you don't know when somebody's going to remind you that you said a different time before. Know your business. Lead by example. Keep your desires burning at all times. Live with passion. Be grateful and show gratitude and praise our Father.